Staying with the courts, the fraud and corruption trial of former President Jacob Zuma and French arms company Thales has been adjourned to the 15th of August. The matter resumed briefly in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg earlier. This was to allow Zuma to make a second application for the removal of State Prosecutor Advocate Billy Downer. Now, Zuma and Thales are facing charges including fraud, corruption and money laundering over the arms deal procurement in the late 1990s. Addressing the court, a State Prosecutor Advocate Billy Downer told the court that the state had already received a full application with regards to his removal on Sunday and that the state was not yet ready to respond. Now, in adjourning the matter, Judge Khumisi Kganare told the court that he is not yet ready to set a trial date. Judge Kganare also clarified the timelines for the state and the defense to file their answering papers and heads of arguments in relation to this application. All right, now let's get analysis. We're now joined by Zoom by legal expert Khumisi Kganare. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So now let's talk about today's developments then, particularly the fresh application by Zuma for Downer's removal. I mean, this doesn't really come as a surprise, did it? You know, especially considering he's insisted that Downer's staying on the case amounts to basically a violation of his rights to a fair trial.
Yes, no, that's true. And good afternoon to your viewers, Unati. I mean, it's this is pure administration of justice at play. Section 35 of the Constitution requires that an accused person be afforded an opportunity to also deal with, his side of the story in a very fair trial. And President Zuma, former President Zuma believes that Advocate Downer's involvement in the case is not going to be, he's not going to be able to realize that right that is guaranteed by the Constitution of fair trial.
Now, in adjourning the matter, Judge Kganare told the court that he's not yet ready to set a trial date. Now, this matter, of course, has been on the court roll, for 4 years now. When are we likely to see matters actually proceeding without interruption?
Look, I agree with Judge Kganare. You wouldn't be in a position to set a trial date when there's so many interlocutory issues that you have to deal with that relate to this matter. We now have a fresh application which just came in, and that application on its own will have a life of its own, which means that the state will have to be given an opportunity to put together their answer to President Jacob Zuma's founding affidavit. And after that, there's another process where if he chooses to reply, he needs to be given an opportunity to do that. And that is just, papers really going back and forth between the parties before we can even talk about a hearing in respect of this case within the case.
You speak about Section 35, and of course it does, protect former President Zuma. But at the same time, he's been accused of the Stalingrad approach. And what's your take on it? Especially if you consider that, both Billy Downer and the NPA saying basically that, enabling criminal accused to force the removal of their prosecutors through the use of private prosecutions could set an incredibly dangerous precedent. Your comments on that?
Another thing is if this issue is not dealt with, it might set, an opposite precedent, if you may. The law allows for what's happening now to happen the way that it's happening. If President Zuma believes, and it will be proven in court whether or not, his case has merit or not, that if he is of the opinion that Advocate Downer, has contravened the NPA Act by not towing the line of the oath that he has taken, which requires of him to serve impartially, which requires of him to observe without fear or favor in doing in realizing or conducting his job of office, then he must be given an opportunity to really raise these issues. We can go back to Judge Kun's recusal. That on its own will tell you that there is probably something to this case that former President Jacob Zuma is raising against impartiality and all those issues that he has with it.
And in fact, in his recusal, he also cited the fact that, we are likely to see, Mr. Zuma doing this or undergoing the second application that we are currently experiencing now. So talk to us then about, how the new judge is expected to, just carry on from where Judge Kuhn left off, particularly because we've cited the reasons that he said that basically he's not ready, to set the trial date. He obviously wants to hear this application out and then proceed in a very fair manner or a presumed fair manner under the law.
Yeah, no, sure, true. And I mean, at least with Judge Clearly, we can, safely assume that there are no issues of, impartiality and or partiality when it comes to him. And we'll see as the process unfolds. He wouldn't necessarily have a choice but to afford former President Jacob Zuma an opportunity to see his application through. And before that is dealt with, we cannot really talk about a trial date. So, to be on a safe side, I cannot even tell you how long this might take before we get to the actual trial of the charges that former President Jacob Zuma is facing.
In fact, Judge Clearly, he did give timelines in terms of, the state and the defense to file their answering papers and heads of arguments in relation to this application. I mean, we heard earlier in court, Billy Downer saying that he'd only received them, on Sunday and some, before that. So what are we likely to see, coming to this particular hearing in August?
Yes, I mean, this is not an urgent application, and, normal course will have to, unfold, meaning that after Advocate Downer has received President Jacob Zuma's papers, then he will have to file his answering affidavit to those papers, to President Jacob Zuma's founding affidavit. And I mean, ordinarily, we would be looking at a time frame of about 10 to 15 days within which Advocate Downer will have an opportunity then to, put together his answering affidavit and also file it. After, the filing of that answering affidavit, there's another period that's going to be afforded former President Jacob Zuma, about 5 days or so, for him to reply to that answering affidavit. Then there's other processes after that where they will have to, hold a pre-hearing where they discuss issues and narrow down issues that surround this application. And only after then we can talk about applying for a date when this application can be had. So possibly we're looking at maybe between 3 and 6 months to come, if I may, give a date.
All right, Mr. Kganare, thank you so much for your time and your analysis this afternoon. Legal expert there, Khumisi Kganare.